Good day, everyone. I am Johanny Sandugan, and today I will discuss a new topic, which is the curriculum models and structures. This is under SNAD 16, which is the Early Childhood Inclusive Education. But before we begin, here are the things that we should learn after the lesson. At the end of this presentation, learners will be able to first describe the major curriculum models in early childhood education. Second is to explain the different curriculum structures in early childhood education. And lastly is to demonstrate understanding of the role of curriculum models and curriculum structures in early childhood education. And of course, to guide us, here is our topic outline. We will talk about introduction, the early childhood curriculum models, the curriculum structures in early childhood education, and lastly is the conclusion. Now, when we say curriculum, it is the total planned learning experience. We mean everything a child encounters in school is intentional, not just random. It includes what they learn, how they learn, and how teachers guide them in learning. In early childhood curriculum, it is carefully designed to support growth in thinking, communication, social skills, and independence. Now, under this is we have the goals of learning. When we say goals of learning, it is what children should learn. Here, goals are the outcome teachers want children to reach. For example, being able to express needs, recognizing patterns, uh, or being able to cooperate with peers. Here, the goals guides instructions so teachers know what they are working toward. And then after is we have the content. It refers to what topics or skills are included here under the curriculum. This refers to what children are actually learning, like language skills, counting, motor coordination, or social behaviors. In early childhood, we must remember that content is not the that we must remember that content is not only academics. It also includes life skills, emotional awareness, and of course play-based exploration. Now, we must also remember that the content here must match the developmental readiness of a child. Then afterwards is we have the teaching strategies. It refers to how learning happens. This is about how us teachers, present learning, maybe through play, questioning, modeling, or guided exploration. Now, here in early childhood, strategies must be interactive and engaging because children learn best by doing. And of course, children are easily get bored, and their attention span is very very limited compared to adults. So of course, here the strategies that the teacher must use is interactive and engaging. Then lastly is we have the learning environment. Now, when we say learning environment, it refers to the materials, the learning centers, the routines. Now, in classroom environment, it is part of the curriculum itself. Organized centers, accessible materials, and predictable routines. Of course, they create safety and, of course, encourage independence. Then lastly is we have the assessment. When we say assessment, it refers to how progress is monitored. Here in assessment, it helps teachers understand how their students are developing. Now, instead of tests like we usually do in higher grades, here it is often observation based, watching how the students interact with each other, how they solve problems, and how they communicate. Now, curriculum must be developmentally appropriate and inclusive. This means that uh, this means that the, this means that the learning must match the children's abilities and include all learners, as we all know that children learn differently. So here the teacher must match the learning must match the children's ability, and of course should include all teachers. Here, the role of the teacher is to adapt activities so that everyone can participate and, of course, succeed. Then we have here the curriculum models. When we say curriculum models, it is like a philosophies. They shape how teachers view children and learning. So maybe some models here emphasize independence, other emphasize structures or exploration. Under this is, of course, what teachers believe about learning, how children are assessed, how classrooms are arranged, what teaching strategies are used. And of course, it guides planning, teaching strategies, and assessment. The model a teacher follows influence everything. So if the teacher follows a certain model, uh, everything about how she or he teaches revolves around that model, like the lesson planning, the classroom layout itself, even the classroom layout, the layout of the centers, the learning centers, the materials being used here, and how the progress are being monitored. Now, under the curriculum models is we have few curriculum models that I will discuss. First is the high scope curriculum. Now, when we say high scope curriculum, it is a research-based early childhood curriculum that promotes active learning. Here, it means that the children or the child actively seek information, builds their own knowledge, their own understanding, instead of just passively waiting for knowledge. Now, the framework ensures that children are intentional participants in their learning process. Under this is we have key features. The first one is the plan do review. Now here in plan do review, it is a process structures how children think, act, and reflect. The first one is we have the plan. It is where the child chooses what to do. The child chooses what they want to do before starting an activity. And of course, through this, uh, it helps build the student or the child's independence because of course they are making their own decisions. The next one is the do. The child carries out the plan that they planned earlier. Now here they learn through hands-on experience, which of course helps them understand the concepts better. And also here they begin to see cause and effect relationships in their action. What is the cause, what is the effect of what they do. And lastly is the review. Now here the child reflects and of course shares the learning. Here in the review stage, the children reflect on and share what they did. Now uh, it revolves around talking about their experience, and through the talking about their experience, it strengthens their memory and understanding, and of course uh it encourages expressive language. And afterwards is we have the daily routine. Now uh it is the predictable schedule. It supports safety, behavior, and participation. Now, a predictable daily routine, of course, help children feel safe and secure because they know what to expect. Now, as we all know, that children at that age, at certain age, like kindergarten or nursery, they have a predictable daily routine that they always follow every day. No miss routine because of course a predictable daily routine, it gives children safety and security. Now when children of course understand the routine, they are more engaged, attentive, and of course willing to participate because they already know what is the routine they are expecting. Then the next one is the adult child interaction. Now, in this model, the high scope curriculum, it focuses on adult child interaction, where the teachers guides the students instead of just guide the students into learning rather than controlling learning. So here, through encouragement and through and thoughtful questions, the teachers builds the children's confidence and stimulate their thinking. Then lastly is we have the key developmental indicators or KDIs. Now, here, the teachers observe children's developmental progress and use what they see to guide instruction. Here, these skills are tracked naturally during play. And here, it allows assessment to inform individual support. So here, this process, it helps ensures that the students develop in a balanced and meaningful way. Now, for example, in this high scope curriculum is a transportation theme, where, for example, in a transportation theme, a child might plan to build a road, uh, showing intentional decision making. So after they plan to build a road, like I will build a road, during the do stage, the children build ramps and test toy cars. So here they experiment and observe how the movement works. And in the review stage, they explain what happened, of course, which strengthen reasoning skills and communication as they reflect and share their learning to others. Now, here it uses observation-based assessment. So the teacher records how children perform during everyday activities. And also these observations are connected to what I told you earlier, the KDIs. It helped guide learning and of course it helped guide learning decisions. Now, by documenting of course what they see, the teachers can better support each child's growth. And this approach is highly effective for inclusive classroom because it offers predictable routines first. Second is it gives children meaningful choices they choose. And next is it builds independence. And also it includes structured reflection, which of course help children think about their own learning, and of course they grow with confidence, with independence. Now we have here the second one, which is the Montessori curriculum. I know that you already heard about Montessori, the word or the term Montessori. Now here, the Montessori curriculum, it emphasizes independence, guided discovery, and self-paced mastery through purposeful materials and structured freedom. From the key term, self-paced mastery, it means that the students learn on their own pace. Then under this is we have the key principles. The first one, of course, the Montessori approach begins with the belief that children are naturally, of course, eager to learn. Now here it recognizes their curiosity as a child, and of course it encouraged them to explore at their own pace. It by exploring, by of course encouraging them, it helps them develop confidence the and and a genuine love for learning. The next one is the teachers are guides and not just and not just lecturers. Now here, the teacher, they closely observe children and provide indirect, supportive instruction that of course that of course encourages independent discovery. So here the role of the teacher is just a guide and not a lecturer, not a lecturer who just passively feed the students knowledge, but a guide where the teacher become a facilitator. So here, instead of controlling learners, teachers prepare the environment and respects each child's autonomy. So here it allows them to develop problem solving and decision making skills. Now, another key feature is learning through self-correcting materials. Now, here these materials help children recognize and fix their own mistakes through trials and errors. From the word itself, self-correcting material, so it is tied to trial and error materials. Now here, this process, of course, it builds persistence, it builds confidence and independence, so while supporting of course the mastery through hands-on exploration. And also we have the mixed age groupings. It is typically from ages 3 to 6 years old. Now here, the younger the younger children learn by observing the older ones, their older peers. And while the older children strengthen their skills by modeling and mentoring, being a leader. So here, uh, this natural interaction, of course, it encourages cooperation, leadership, and of course, empathy among these children. So what's in the Montessori curriculum? The first Montessori learning areas focuses on everyday life skills. Now here the activities are designed to mirror real life tasks. It allows children to practice independence every day. And here these experiences of course strengthen fine motor coordination, encourage responsibility, and of course build practical competence, which of course boost children's confidence. Then afterwards is we have the sensory development. Now, it is also another important area here in the Montessori curriculum. Uh, here, Here, the Montessori materials help children refine their perception by comparing textures, sizes, and sounds. Now, through sensory exploration, the children strengthen their thinking skills. It also improves concentration, and lastly, it develop a deeper awareness of details and it support learning. Then we also have here the communication skills or the language. Now, children expand their vocabulary through use. They become more aware, they become more confident in expressing themselves, and of course develop listening skills. Now, strong communication of course supports both academic learning and positive social relationships among the students. Then here it also introduced the number concepts or the math. Now, mathematical ideas are presented in concrete ways so children can see quantity relationships, not just in abstract way. It is presented in concrete ways. Now, logical thinking, of course, develops gradually, and repeated practice it helps children build a strong foundation for abstract thinking. So from concrete to abstract, it is repeatedly practiced to them, so that from from concrete to abstract, they'll be able to think abstractly without the concrete materials. And then afterwards is we have the world awareness. It is the culture. Now here in world awareness, it encourages children to explore the culture and their environment, their culture, the culture where they are in. Now here, the learning, it connects to real world understanding, which of course it sparks curiosity and it strengthens social awareness among to the students. Now here, this area also promotes respect for the environment and appreciation for the world around them. And the Montessori curriculum, it promotes that children can work at their own pace. Now, a key feature, it is one of the key feature in Montessori learning, that is that children work at their own pace. Now, self-paced learning, it helps them stay focused without pressure. Unlike us, unlike the curriculum that they belong, of course, it's not self-paced. It is more unlike teacher-paced. We are running. It's like we are always running out of time. So here in Montessori curriculum, it's self-paced. This teacher, the learners does not feel pressure, and instead it improves their attention span and of course strengthens their self-regulation. So as a children, it master skills in their own time. The children master their own skill at their own time, and they gain confidence and of course develop a positive attitude toward learning. Then in assessment, it uses observation or progress tracking, observation plus progress tracking. So what do you mean by this? Now here, the teacher, of course, naturally observe the children during activities and afterward is record their own development over time. Then this observation, it becomes the guide to instruction. It also helps identify the learning patterns of the child, their strengths, their weaknesses. It ensures that the children afterward are, of course, the teacher can afterward afterwards give the child a better learning experience through that observation, through that noting down their strength, their pattern, their learning pattern, where they learn best. And mastery through repetition and independence. Now here in Montessori, it is achieved through repetition and independence. Now, repeated practice, as what I've already told you earlier, it helps children retain skills while, of course, while working independently, show true understanding on their own. If they really understand without the teacher's guidance, if they really understand the topic. So as the confidence grow with practice, the children reach mastery when they are ready, self-paced, making learning here self-driven and meaningful. Now we have here the next model, which is the Reggio Emilia curriculum. Now, when we say Reggio Emilia curriculum, it is an inquiry-based early childhood approach that views children as capable learners who construct through exploration, collaboration, and creative expression. Now, under this is we have here the key concepts of this curriculum. The first one is child as capable. Now, here the children, they are seen as a competent individuals, as a competent thinkers whose ideas should be valued or are valued. Now, their curiosity is being respected here. And the independence is, of course, encouraged, which, of course, builds confidence and it supports their exploration about things. The next one is we have the emergent curriculum. where the topics come from children's interest and questions. So if they are interested in the cycle of the life cycle of the butterfly, then the teacher will teach the cycle, the life cycle of the butterfly. Now, learning here, the learning follows their natural curiosity, and the teacher, of course, respond by shaping experiences and uh, shaping the experiences around those interests. Then we have here the documentation. Here, documentation, it is the photos, the transcripts, the journals, the learning panels. Now, another key concept here is the documentation. The teacher, the teacher carefully record the learning moments through photos, notes, journals, and learning panels. Now, here, this visual documentation, it captures the children's thinking. It captures the children's reflection to their own growth, and of course, it helps the teacher reflect what the child should know better, what the child should know best, and of course, for future learning of the child here. Then we have the environment as the third teacher. Now, here in the Reggio Emilia approach, the classrooms are intentionally designed to, of course, invite inquiry and stimulate curiosity. Now, thoughtfully, now if the environment are thoughtfully arranged, the materials, the spaces, now it encourage collaboration, independence, of course, deeper exploration through that learning spaces or the centers or the materials that they use inside the classroom. Now here in Reggio Emilia approach or curriculum, it also introduced the idea of the 100 languages of children. Now, when we say 100 languages of children, it recognizes that children express their understanding in many different ways. First is through drawing, where they visually represent their ideas and develop symbolic thinking. The next one is through music. Now, music, it allows them to explore rhythm and express emotion. Then we have the sculpting. Now, it supports their tactile creativity and spatial awareness. Then we have the storytelling. Here, storytelling, it builds their narrative thinking and strengthens their language skills. Then we have the drama. Now, drama, it encourages imagination and it deepens their social understanding through role play. And of course, we have the movement. Now, movement lets children communicate ideas physically while, of course, improving body awareness. Together, these 100 languages of children, these forms validate that children learn and express themselves in diverse and meaningful way. Now, uh, an example of this is a good example of Reggio Emilia Inquiry project is exploring shadows. Now, here during the exploration stage, the children may investigate how shadows move outdoors and experiment it with the use of flashlights to understand how light behaves. Then, in the representation stage, they document it with the use of drawing, which of course strengthen visual thinking. Then, finally, in the creation stage, the children work together to build a shadow exhibit that, of course, that shows their learning, while collaboration also helps them develop communication and teamwork skills. Now here, it the assessment style of Reggio Emilia curriculum, it uses uh, qualitative documentation. Here, the teacher creates learning stories and observation that focuses on the process of how children think and grow, using reflection to guide future planning. The portfolios are also used to collect work samples, making each child's development and progress visible over time. So, yeah, it uses portfolios and qualitative assessment. The strength of this curriculum is that it recognizes that there are many ways for children to express their learning, not just through writing or speaking that we usually taught. Now, using multiple forms of expression, it supports inclusion and it allows creativity to the children to deepen their own understanding. Of course, at the same time, also, it uses teamwork. The teamwork here plays an important role, and the collaboration, it builds social skills, shared inquiry, it strengthens their thinking, and peer interaction, it encourages meaningful communication between students. The next one is we have the direct instruction model. Now, here in direct instruction model, it is presented as a structured, teacher-led approach focused on building mastery through systematic teaching, compared to the one that I introduced to you earlier, where the child become the focus, the center of learning, uh, where the child learn actively, where the child learn in their own pace. Here, the teacher, the student follow a systematic learning, a systematic teaching where there's a step-by-step learning teaching that they must follow. Now, direct instructional model, it is it was developed by Siegfried Ingelmann to improve the teaching of academic skills. The main goal of this direct instructional model is the mastery of academic skills. Students practice until they reach accuracy and confidence. So practice, and of course it uses also repetition, where the repetition, it ensures understanding, and the mastery is prioritized over speed so that learning is solid and long lasting. So in compared to what we use today, where it's like we're always running because we want to apas the lesson. Here, although it is kanang systematic, although it is structured, it still prioritize the mastery of that learning, that knowledge to be instilled to the students compared to the speed. Wala sila nagdali-dali here. So that, of course, the learning becomes solid and long-lasting. Now, one of the key features here is that it is teacher-directed. Now, the teacher actively leads the lesson while the students follow structured guidance. This clear direction, of course, it reduces confusion to the students and it helps students understand exactly what is expected. The next feature is the use of scripted or highly structured lessons. Now, these planned lessons create consistency, which of course improve clarity and it keeps instruction precise. Now, the teacher here follows a clear format to make learning more effective. Then we have the frequent correction and feedback. It This is also essential here in direct instructional model. So when errors happen, they are corrected right away so that the students can adjust quickly, and immediate feedback, of course, it guides improvement and helps children learn the correct response more efficiently. Then we have it also uses fast pacing with high repetition. Now here, lessons move efficiently to maintain attention, while of course repeated practice it strengthens their memory and retention. This rhythm keeps the students engaged throughout the lesson. Then finally is we have the small steps. Now, here the learning is organized into small steps that leads to practice and mastery. Here, the skills are broken down into manageable parts. Then afterward, each step is practiced thoroughly. The students here move forward only after mastering a skill to ensure a strong and lasting understanding of the topic. Then we have here the example of direct instruction model, where the teacher teaches letter sound M. First is the teacher first models the sound clearly, then afterward is the child will repeat it. Now, if any mistakes occur, it is corrected right away to, of course, reinforce accuracy. Then practice continues until the students can produce the sounds confidently. Now, here, it works best in skills needing clear mastery, such as reading basics, phonemic awareness, and early numeracy. Now, these areas here requires precision and repeated practice, which is of course which this structured approach is designed to provide and help students develop strong and accurate skills. Now, it is best used. The direct instruction works best in structured learning environment or settings that require targeted skill teaching. It is especially helpful for children who benefit from clear instruction, repeated practice, and organized learning routines. Now, however, if the direct instruction model is used often, it can feel less playful. So teachers need to balance it with more interactive approaches to keep the students engaged and not get bored. Then we have here the Bank Street approach. Now here it focuses on a whole child development through meaningful hands-on experiences and social interaction. Now, it follows a developmental interaction model, meaning that learning is based on each child's readiness and grows through real experiences with others. Now, here, this approach views development as interconnected, such as the cognitive, the emotional, and the social growth of the child. So here it work all together. So teaching here supports the child as a complete individual and not just one area of learning. Core principles of Bank Street approach is first, learning through experience. Now, the children here under this that the children learn best by doing, and hands-on activities help them understand concept more deeply. Now, exploration here it encourages curiosity and allows the children to actively engage in the learning process. Then the next one is learning in context. Now, activities are connected to real life situations because we all know that it is better to teach children that is forced close to their what they experience so that you'll be able to understand the lesson better. These meaningful experiences, it helps deepen understanding and of course make learning more relevant to them. The next one is we have the learner driven experiences. Here the children, they are encouraged to influence the direction of learning based on their own interests. Now, here this approach, it increases motivation and it allows exploration to feel natural and purposeful. Then we have the adaptive instruction. It is also important in the Bank Street approach because here the teachers adjust their strategies to meet each child's needs, their strength. It provides flexibility that supports individual growth and development. The next one is uh, promotes this approach also promotes connected approach subjects. Now, the learning areas are integrated rather than taught separately. The learning areas such as math, English, science. Now, it helps children understand how different skills work together in real life situations. Then finally is we have the real life evaluation. And now, here it focuses on authentic assessment in Bank Street approach. The teacher observe children's natural behaviors and everyday performance to understand their development, and it also ensures that the assessment reflects real learning experiences. Then afterwards is the strength of Bank Street approach. Now, one of the strengths of Bank Street approach is that it supports different learning styles, as what I've already told you earlier. The instruction here is flexible enough to accommodate the variety of students, varied learners with different interests, with different strengths that allows the children to engage in ways that, of course, suit their individual strength and preferences. Another one is that it is flexible and responsive. Now, the teacher here can adapt their strategies based on children's needs, keeping the learning dynamic and meaningful rather than become fixed or rigid. The next one is it also promotes social and emotional learning. Through collaboration and shared experiences, children build relationship and develop emotional awareness, which of course supports their overall development. Then we have the creative curriculum. Here in creative curriculum, it is a framework created on developmentally appropriate play-based learning that supports children natural growth. Now, here the activities are designed to match each child's readiness while of course promoting whole child development, including the emotional, the physical, the cognitive and language skills. And here the play also serves as the main vehicle for learning. It also encourages creativity, exploration, and problem solving. Now, the classroom environment here is intentionally organized with engaging materials and purposeful spaces that invite active participation from students. In addition to that, the strong family partnerships are also emphasized here, with the families working alongside the teachers to support their children's learning and development in meaningful way. Now, it focus on it focus on social and emotional domain. Here, it focuses on helping children develop their self-awareness and build positive relationship among others. Through interaction and guided experience, here the children learn to understand their feelings, cooperate with other people, and strengthen their social connections. Then next one is we have the physical. Now here in physical domains, it supports the children, the development of the children based on their motor skills and coordination. Now, movement-based activities, it helps children balance and build the physical confidence needed for everyday tasks. And the next one is we have the cognitive domain. Here, it promotes thinking and problem solving. The children here develop reasoning abilities and learn how to make sense of the world around them. The next one is language. Now here, language domain focuses on expanding their communication skills. Now here, the children build vocabulary through interacting with others. So they practice expressing their ideas and then strengthen their ability to listen and understand others. So it's not just one way, it's two way. Then we have this strength of Bank Street approach. One of the strengths of this approach is differentiated learning. Now, instruction is adapted to meet the individual's needs, the individual's preferences, their strengths. It allows the children to progress at levels that are appropriate for them. So it also ensures that each child is supported in a way that promotes their confidence and meaningful growth. The next one is family involvement. Now, family involvement is, of course, one of the important strengths also, because here parents are encouraged to support the classroom learning and strong communication between families and teachers. Now, uh, the family and the teacher, they build partnership that benefits the child's development. Then lastly is the use of routines and a predictable structures. So the use of routines and predictable structure also supports learning. Now, stability help children feel confident and secure, while consistent expectation guides them guide while consistent expectations guide their behavior and create a positive learning environment. Then the next one is we have the Waldorf curriculum. Now here, it integrates thinking, feeling, and doing to support the development stages. The Waldorf philosophy is built around the idea of educating the head, the heart, and the hands. Now, thinking develops intellectual ability. Then the feeling, it supports emotional growth, and doing, it builds practical competence. Now, this philosophy, it promotes an integrated curriculum where academic learning is combined with arts and practical skills are valued as an essential part of development. Now, here, the Waldorf learning approach, it emphasizes learning through imitation, where children model adult behavior and develop skills through observation. Sensory-rich play is also important here, using materials that, of course, is engaging the to the senses and encourage imagination. Now, this approach supports creativity while helping learn in a natural and meaningful way. Now, under this Waldorf curriculum is we have the developmental stages. Early childhood, we have first the early childhood from birth to age 7. Now, here it focuses on imitation and play. The learning here is guided by sensory experiences, it allows children to explore the world in a natural and hands-on way. The next one is middle childhood from ages 7 to 14. 14. Now, imagination becomes a major part of learning here. Storytelling, artistic activities are used to deepen understanding and help children connect emotionally with what they learn. And lastly is we have the adolescents from ages 14 to 21. The focus here shifts to developing independent thinking and critical judgment. Here, the students are encouraged to analyze ideas and form their own perspective about a certain idea or a certain topic. Now, overall, the Waldorf curriculum evolves with evolves with each developmental stages. Teaching methods change as children grow, ensuring that instruction matches their readiness and support their development at early level. Now let us proceed to the curriculum structures. So what do you mean by curriculum structures? When we say curriculum structures, it refers to how learning content is organized, arranged, and delivered in early childhood classroom. What you need to remember here is it answers how. Now, under this, it helps under the curriculum structure, it answers the what will children learn. Here, it helps teachers decide what children are expected to learn. The next one is how will teaching be delivered daily or weekly? So the structure shows how teaching will be delivered on a daily or weekly basis to keep learning consistent. Then the next one is we have the how will learning experience be grouped. It also guides how learning experiences are grouped so children can understand connection between ideas. Then lastly is how will we ensure balanced development? Most importantly, here, the curriculum structures, it ensures that children develop in a balanced way across different areas of growth, not just one, but many or but across different areas. So it means it is holistic. Now let us discuss our first type of curriculum structure. We have here the thematic structure. When we say thematic structure, it organizes learning around a central theme that connects different learning areas into one meaningful focus. Now, here in this approach, a theme becomes the main topic of a classroom learning, and the activities are planned around that shared idea, around that shared theme. The theme here creates continuity across lessons. It helps children see how concepts are connected. Now, instead of learning subjects separately, the children here experience learning as integrated and meaningful one. Now, thematic reflect first is children's real life experiences. One type of theme reflect children's real life experiences. Now, these themes relate to familiar situations, helping the children connect classroom learning to their everyday lives. So it's very important that the theme, of course, reflects real life experiences for them to be able to understand the topic better, for them to for it to become relevant to their daily life. The next one is season or events. Here, themes can also be based on seasons or events. Now, by aligning lessons with calendar or developmental changes, the children connect learning to what they can observe around them. It helps them understand ideas like time, change, and patterns in their world. The next one is the community or environment. Another theme focuses on community or the environment of the child. These topics help the children explore their surrounding and social context. It builds awareness and understanding to them. So through this, the children began to recognize their place in the community and the world around them. The next one is the interest of children. Now, themes can also be came from the children's interest. When the teachers build lesson around the children's curiosity, engagement of course increases because the learning becomes more meaningful to them, more relevant to them. So this motivation, it encourages deeper exploration and stronger understanding of them. Now, here we have the theme becomes the bridge. In a thematic structure, the theme connects different learning areas into one unified uh, learning experience. Here, the language activities build vocabulary and discussion around that certain topic. The math includes counting or measuring within the theme, and art allows children to creatively represent their own ideas. The science, it encourages exploration related to the theme. The music, it includes song connected to the topic. And motor activities, it involves movement that reflects what they are learning. And lastly is the social value, that it is also integrated into daily activities. So when all of these areas are connected, the, the children begin to see learning as a meaningful and interconnected rather than separate subjects. Now, the core principles of thematic structures is we have learning is more meaningful when ideas are connected. That is the first principle. Now, here, when children see how concepts are related to each other, understanding, of course, for them becomes clearer. Now, repeating ideas across different learning areas helps to reinforce the knowledge, and it strengthens their memory about a certain topic. The next one is learn the children learn best through familiar context. Now, another principle, so here when topics feels recognizable to them, confusion is reduced and children feel more comfortable in participating in the lesson. The familiar situations make them learning easier to understand and make more engaging to them. Lastly, is we have knowledge is constructed through real life experience. Now, the core principles, it's integrated. It's like what they intend to say is just one. In here, the knowledge is constructed through real life experience. The final principle, here it meant to say learning becomes more practical when the teacher can connect ideas to everyday situation. These experiences make concepts concrete and, of course, easier to remember. Here, the teacher's role in thematic structure is uh, the teacher the teacher chose themes that are appropriate for the children's development and plan activities across different learning areas. And of course, through discussion and experiences, they help children connect ideas to the theme and guide them in making meaningful understanding. The child the child's role here is that The child's role here is to actively explore the theme through play and discussion. Now, the activities here help reinforce their understanding and repeated experiences. Now, here it strengthens connection between ideas. Now, through active participation, the children build meaning and deepen their learning about a certain topic. Example is We have the example is about the plants, growing plants. Now, different activities can support learning from multiple angles, so not just one. Here in science, the children can observe by the seeds growing, where they're going to plant the seed, and then they will observe how the seeds grow. Then afterward in math, they can measure the plant height if it grow very well or not. So it's based in also, of course, the growth of the plant. It's also based on math. If that if the plants grow taller, then it means it's thriving well. I mean, if it's not, then maybe it's stunted. It's maybe there's something wrong. Then we have here the next one is language. Here, language activities, it can include learning plant vocabulary, like example the parts of the plants, the stem, the flowers, and such. And art. In here, art might involve creating or leaf rubbing collage. So what we like, I don't know if you all experience leaf collage during elementary or high school, where we're going to color uh the back of the leaf, then afterward is to rub it in the bond paper. Then afterwards it will going to show the structure of the plant or of the leaf. So even though the structure here are different, of course, they all connect to the same theme, which is the plant. Here, it helps children see how learning areas work together. So even if it's different, it shows how they are connected in a way. Now, where to use thematic structure? This thematic structure is especially useful when planning weekly or monthly integrated lessons. It also works well when teacher want to connect learning to real life context, making lessons more meaningful. Then this approach also promotes engagement and participation because the children here can easily relate to the theme and stay interested in the activities. Then we have here the next structure, which is the integrated structure. Now, when we say integrated structure, it is a way of organizing learning where different domains are taught together instead of being separate. So rather than dividing the subjects, here the activities are designed with multiple learning goals so children develop several skills at the same time. Now, this approach, it supports holistic development. It helps children experience learning as connected and meaningful rather than isolated. Now, uh, it says here based on how children learn naturally. This approach is based on how learning happens naturally. So here, the children don't learn skills one at a time. They learn through combined experiences. So here, in real life, many skills are used at the same time. So integrated learning reflects that natural process and makes understanding more meaningful. And under this is we have the core principles. First one or one key principles of integrated structure is that learning blends different domains, such as the language, the math, the science, and social skills. They are combined in one activities, allowing the skills to support and reinforce one another. The next one is that promotes the next one is it encourages deeper understanding. So here, instead of focusing only on memorization, The children here explore concept thoroughly, it helping them understand ideas at a meaningful level. And another principle is promoting real life application. So here learning mirrors everyday situation so that the children can apply what they know in practical and meaningful ways, not just through theories or what, but in meaningful and practical ways. They'll be able to apply it to their everyday life. Then the last one is supports inquiry, play, and exploration. Now, here, children learn by asking questions, experimenting, and engaging in a playful experiences that, of course, strengthens their curiosity, and understanding. The teacher's role here is in the integrated structure is to design activities with multiple learning objectives so that the children develop several skills at once. Here, the teacher observes learning across different domains and use thoughtful questions to extend the children's thinking. They also supports inquiry and exploration. Now, here it encourages children to stay curious and actively engage in the learning process. Child The child's role here is first participates using personal strength. In the integrated structure, the child engage in learning in a ways that match their abilities and individual differences, of course, here are respected. So allowing every child to feel included and capable. Next one is learn through learns through hands-on experiences. Now, hands-on learning is another important part of the child's role because here, through active exploration, the children strengthen their understanding and direct engagement, of course, helps them remember what they learn. Then next one is collaborate with their peers. Collaboration is also encouraged here. So when children interact with their peers, uh, with their classmates, they build social skills and shared learning experience, deepen their understanding through discussion and cooperation. So of course we have that saying that no man is an island. So the child with the help of their peers, with the help of their classmates, they can share knowledge, ideas with one another. And through that, you'll be able to build experience, build knowledge with that. So an example of that is uh, cooking or mixing materials or like, what's that? Fruit salad. Example is the fruit salad. Now here, the children practice math by counting and measuring. So pila ang ibutang na pila ang slice or ang ibutang na apple, pila ang ibutang na banana, cheese, pila ka kuan, unsa ang kadagkuon and such. Then use language describing textures and steps, step by steps, what the steps of creating or mixing that or creating that fruit salad. Then describing the textures, what's the textures, it may be in cubes or in kanang paslant and such. Then social. Here, uh, here it develops social skills by sharing and taking turns and strengthen, of course, the motor skills through actions like cutting and pouring. So yeah, it's integrated. Even though it's one activity, it supports many skills at the same time. Then, of course, we have designs, mixing, and changes. So, from way lami to naanay lami. Now, when should we use integrated structure? Now, here, integrated structure is best used during play-based teaching, where the children can naturally develop multiple skills at once. It is especially helpful when teachers want inclusive participation, allowing every child to engage in a meaningful ways. So this approach works well when learning is meant to feel connected, practical, and relevant to real life experiences. Then the next one is we have the learning center structure. Now, it organizes the classroom into a designated activity areas where the children can learn through hands-on exploration. Each center here focuses on a specific type of learning, such as the literacy, art, or problem solving. A while ago, Rhea discussed these learning centers where there's a specific area for the children to explore their interest, to explore their preferences, and the children here also may rotate between centers or choose where they want to work, allowing them to explore independently while also building their different skills. Now we have here the types of centers. The first one is the block center. Here it allows children to build and construct, which of course strengthens spatial awareness and encourages problem solving as they plan and adjust their designs. And then we have the dramatic play. In the dramatic play center, children use role play to explore imagination and real life situation. Here, this type of play also helps develop social interaction and communication skills. So here in dramatic play, there's a mga damit. They uses clothes with a specific characters on them, and they explore through dramatic play. And then we have the literacy. Now here in the literacy centers, here in the literacy center, it exposes children to books and writing materials. So here through reading and writing activities, the children build vocabulary and strengthen their language skills. Then we have the art. Here the art center, it supports creative expression of the child. So as children draw, paint, or create, they also develop fine motor skills and confidence in expressing their ideas. Then we have the science or the discovery. Now, here it encourages curiosity through exploration. The children can observe, experiment, and ask questions, which strengthen, of course, their observation and thinking skills. Then lastly is we have the mathematics or the math center. Here it focuses on counting, sorting, and comparing. Now, under this, the activities under this, it builds reasoning skills and help children develop a strong understanding of basic math concepts. Now, the purpose of these centers is to promote independent learning by allowing the children to explore the activities on their own preferences. Here, the centers also supports the differentiated instruction so that the teacher can meet the individual needs, the individual preferences, their strength, and by giving their children choices, by giving them their own choices, center here increase motivation and help them take ownership in their own learning. Now we have here the key features of the learning centers structure. The first one is learning centers is a physical arrangement of the classroom. Now, organized spaces help guide behavior and create predictable routines, making transitions smoother and helping children feel secure. Then the next one is learning happens through hands-on exploration. Now, hands-on exploration is another important feature where the learning becomes active as materials invite children to discover. They experiment and of course it engage directly with their own environment. And the next one is children choose activities. Now, child choice is also emphasized in learning centers because when children have autonomy in selecting their own activities that they want, the motivation increases and the decision making skills begin to develop. Then, learning centers also allow for small group instruction, where the teachers can provide targeted support while encouraging collaboration between students and help children learn from both guidance and peer interaction. Now, the teacher's role here is first in the learning center structure is to prepare materials and establish clear rules and clear center rules. The teacher also regularly rotate and update materials to keep learning engaging, so not to be redundant. Then observe children for assessment and facilitate learning by giving prompts and scaffolding when needed. And the child's role here is to become independent and explore materials actively. So chooses tasks. Then, through interaction with peers, the children practice communication, cooperation, and social skills while also developing independence and responsibility. The next one is we have the domain-based structure. Now, here in domain-based structure, it organizes learning around key developmental areas so teachers can intentionally support balanced growth. In this approach, it is planned according to major domains such as cognitive, language, physical, and social development, and self-help adaptive. Now, each domain receives focused attention, and teachers monitor progress in specific skill areas to ensure development that ensured children develop in a well-rounded and balanced way. It means holistic. The first one is, of course, the cognitive. Here, in cognitive domain, it focuses on developing thinking and problem-solving skills of a child. The next one is the language or communication. It helps children practice expressing their ideas and listening to others. It also where the vocabulary of the child grows through interaction. Then we have the physical. It includes the gross and fine motor. Now, in gross motor skills, the gross motor activities build larger muscle control, while the fine motor tasks improve hand coordination. Then the social emotional. Here, it focuses on helping children understand emotion and build relationship to other people. Then the self-help or the adaptive. So here it encourages children to practice daily living skills. So repeated routines, it builds their independence and responsibility. Then here the teacher in domain-based structure, the teachers carefully plan activities that targeted each area of development. So they observe how children respond and use those observations to adjust instructions when needed. And of course, they monitor the progress of the child by tracking the progress of that certain child in each domain so that they were able to ensure that the child grow in a balanced and well-supported way or in holistic way. The example here in domain-based structure is on Monday, the activity focused on gross motor and social emotional learning. Then movement games help strengthen physical coordination, while group play encourages cooperation and teamwork. Then in Tuesday centers on literacy and fine motor development, so like writing or drawing activities. It improves their hand control, and also while language exposure strengthen their communication skills. And in Wednesday, it focused on science exploration. So through observation and investigation, the children build curiosity and develop reasoning skills. Then in Thursday, it highlights math through playful activities such as counting, sorting exercises, and here it supports cognitive growth and help develop the child's logical thinking. Then in Friday, it emphasizes in storytelling and reflection. Here, the children practice expressing themselves through language and reflection activities. It helps deepen their understanding of what they learn during the week. So that is the domain-based structure. The whole child, it is a whole child, the holistic development of the child. Then we have here the academic subject structure. Here in the academic subject, this structure organizes the curriculum into traditional subject areas with a strong focus on academic readiness. So here, learning is divided into specific content areas, and each subject is given focused instructional time. Now, the structure mirrors formal schooling formats, helping prepare children for more structured academic environment. So the academic subject structure is, I think it's what we usually use in today's time, where the focus is in the subjects, and yeah, it focus in the subject and the environment, the classroom environment. It also, yeah, revolves around the subjects, the academic subjects, so what we uh usually see inside the classroom, especially in elementary and high school, where there's a bulletin boards, where there's a, yeah, bulletin boards that states about that certain subjects and such. Now here, it focuses on the reading language, and here in the reading language area, children develop early literacy skills. So the activities here, it supports vocabulary growth and comprehension. Then we have the mathematics. Here, mathematics, it introduces basic numerical understanding. Then we have the science, encourages exploration and awareness of the natural world. Then we have the writing. So focuses on symbolic expression and early handwriting skills. Now, it emphasizes first skill progression. So here, learning moves from simple to more complex task. So spiral siya. Here with each new skill, building on what the children already understand. So this step-by-step approach helps strengthen confidence and understanding. Here, skill progression, we usually do this because it's in the curriculum, which what we called spiral progression, where ang skill, ang kuan kay nagabalik-balik lang siya, but of course na ay naga-increase ang kalisod. Then we have the mastery of academic readiness. So through consistent practice, the children here develop competence and important readiness skills that of course are reinforced to prepare them for formal schooling. Then structured learning blocks are also important in this approach because time is organized for focused instruction and predictable routines create consistency, helping children stay engaged and understand expectation. So where to use it? Now, academic subject structure is best used for first, children preparing for grade 1. Now here, the organized format supports school readiness for by gradually introducing academic expectation, helping children adjust to more formal learning. So at the like element uh kindergarten, although it's not like formal yun siya, pero at that time the curriculum introduced um the curriculum introduced academic subjects already, although not formal pa. Then, it also effective in structured readiness programs. So here, the instruction is carefully organized to prepare children for academic demands. And skills, of course, are enforced in a systematic way. Then, afterwards, is we have the targeted intervention and remediation. Now, it is focused instruction. Here, focused instruction allows the teachers to address specific uh, learning needs and, of course, provide extra support when needed. Then we have the project-based structure. So here, project-based structure, it supports a deep exploration of topics through inquiry and collaboration. What you need uh, to understand here, to memorize here, is that project-based structure focus around inquiry and collaboration. It explores topic based on those two. So here in this approach, children investigate a single subject over several days or even a weeks. Then after that, it allows learning deep, uh, to build deep instead of just quick coverage. Now, the core components of this is the projects are inquiry driven and include first is investigation. Now here, the children ask questions. They observe closely and then explore ideas, allowing them to understand the growth, allowing them to understand grow through active discovery. Then the next one is collaboration. Now, collaboration is another important component because here the children learn alongside their peers and share ideas and refine them into thinking through discussion and, of course, teamwork. Then next one is real world. Now, in real world connection makes projects more meaningful because it is relevant to their life. Now, when learning relates to everyday experiences, children, of course, can better understand the concept and see their relevance. Then afterwards is we have the documentation of learning. Now, documentation of learning is also important in project-based structure because here the teachers record the child's progress and collect works samples. It helps track the development of the child and reflect on their learning process. Now, it emphasizes deep deep understanding over fast coverage. Now, an important focus on this project-based structure is deep understanding. So instead of rushing through topics, the children here can explore ideas thoroughly and revisit them multiple times. So through this repeated exploration, it will help them strengthen their comprehension and allows learning to, of course, become more meaningful and lasting. And we have here the basic project flow. So what the children in project-based structure usually do. First is the first step in a project, of course, is to identify a question or interest. So here, for example, the children might ask, why do insects live under the rock? So this curiosity starts the learning process and helps the children focus on the topic they always want to explore. Then the next one is exploration. Here, the children observe, test ideas, and collect information through hands-on investigation, which of course supports discovery and builds understanding. The next one is research. So here, in stage, it expands their knowledge. So here, these children may use books, pictures, or videos. Then afterwards is the creation. Now, during creation, children represent what they've learned by of maybe making models, posters, or journals. So it strengthens their understanding by turning their ideas, um, into something that is concrete, something that they can something that they can hold, something that is manipulative. Then is that finally is sharing. Now here, the children share their learning to their peers, to their classmates, to the teacher through presentation or exhibit. So of course here it encourages the reflection and communication. Then we have here the routine-based structure. When we say routine-based structure, it embeds learning into everyday classroom routines so that the children develop functional skills through repeated, meaningful experiences. Here, the instruction happens during natural moments like arrival, snack time, toileting, and transitions. It allows children to practice skills in real life situations. So because these routines happens regularly, repetition strengthens understanding and helps learning become part of their daily habits. Now, why this works well? Because of course, routines happens every day. Now, children get frequent practice. Skills are reinforced regularly and repetition helps them reach mastery. Now, over time, learning becomes habitual and part of their natural behavior. Then the next one is routines are meaningful and predictable. So when children understand what to expect, they feel more secure and confident because they are familiar with the routines, and with the familiar routines, it increases their participation because the children know what to do and how to engage. Then the next one is children learn functional life skills naturally. Another benefit is that children naturally learn functional skills through daily routines. Simple activities like organizing materials or following steps help them build independence and practical abilities they can use in everyday life. Now, uh, this routine-based structure is of course commonly used in early childhood special education and inclusive programs because it is predictable routines. It provides consistency and supports children with diverse learning needs, especially to those children who has autism or ASD. Then the next one is the example of routine or routine-based structure. Now, during the first, we have here the arrival routine. Now, during the arrival routine, children practice important social and independent skills like greeting peers. It encourages social interaction. Putting belongings away, it builds responsibility. And of course, checking on schedule cards strengthen visual understanding and routine awareness. Then the next one is here in the snack routines. It also becomes an important learning opportunity because here children practice communication by requesting items or using AAC. It also develops early math skills by counting utensils and builds self-care habits through hygiene routines. Then a clean time or clean up routine. So clean up time, it supports several areas of development such as sorting toys, strengthen uh, categorization skills, teamwork promotes cooperation, and language skills grow as children request help. So here, following cleanup set steps, it also helps children develop sequencing and organization skills. Now, routine-based structures is best used, as what I've already told you earlier, is best cues, especially effective for children with autism or developmental delays. Now, because it is predictable, the predictable routines help reduce anxiety, while of course structured repetition supports consistent learning. And of course, through these daily routines, the children develop important functional communication and self-help skills that build their own confidence or independence. Then lastly is we have the competency or skill progression structure. Now, in this structure, it organizes learning according to skills levels. So it allows teachers to monitor progress from emerging abilities to mastery, from not knowing to knowing. So here, skills are sequenced from simple to a more advanced one. And here, the teacher track development step by step, and the instruction is adjusted to match each child's current level while ensuring learning stays appropriate and supportive. Now, learning allows a clear progression from emerging to developing and eventually to mastery. This structure is aligned with first standard outcome. Now, this structure aligns instruction with standards and expected outcomes because here the teacher use clear learning targets to guide their planning. It ensures that lessons support specific goals and measurable progress. The next one is assessment tracking. It is also another important part of these structures where the teachers continuously document progress, allowing them to identify growth patterns and better understanding each child's development. Then the last one is the intervention or planning. Now here, it also builds into this structure where the instruction is adjusted to support the development and targeted strategies are used to address individual learning needs. Now, this structure is specifically effective for differentiated instruction because it allows children to progress at their own pace at over time. Teachers here can adapt their teaching to match each child's ability level while ensuring that learning remains supportive, appropriate, and meaningful not to just one student but to all students. Here we have the language skills progression, example of the competency uh, skills progression structure. First is the merging. At the merging stage here of language development, a child begins responding to their name and using gestures to communicate. These early interactions build the foundation for basic communication skills. So it's very basic pa lang yun siya. Then afterwards is sa developing. Here in the developing stage, the child starts using short phrases and answering simple questions. So here, the communication becomes clearer as the vocabulary of that certain child grows and the confidence increases. Then lastly is we have the mastery. So at the mastery stage, this child is able to tell stories and explain ideas or reasons on their own. Their expressive language becomes more independent, showing strong communication skills. And that is the last type of curriculum structure. And for you to better understand the curriculum structure, we have here the a table that listed the focus, the strength, and the limitation of each structure. First is we have here the thematic structure. The focus, it organizes learning around one meaningful theme. And of course, the activities across subjects are connected to the topic, helping children see learning as unified instead of separate. Now here, this approach is engaging because themes capture interest and makes ideas easier to connect. However, it requires careful planning because if not done well, learning too I can become too surface level and important skills might not be able or might not fully explored. Then we have the integrated. Now here in integrated structures, it combines multiple skills within a single activity, reflecting how children naturally learn. So here it promotes holistic development, real life application, and inclusive participation. The challenge here is that assessing specific skills can be more complex, and the teachers must balance the activities to ensure all domains are supported. Then the learning center structure. The learning center structure focuses or it uses in designated classroom areas for hands-on exploration. It promotes independence, play, and peer interaction, allowing children to take ownership of their own learning. However, it requires strong classroom management and preparation since materials and routines must be carefully organized. Then we have here the domain-based structure. Now, here in the domain-based structure, the domain structure organizes learning by developmental areas like cognitive, language, and social skills to ensure balanced growth. Now, here it helps teacher monitor progress clearly. On the downside, the learning can feel fragmented and overemphasis on tracking may limit the creativity. Then afterwards, we have the academic subjects. Now here in the academic subject structure, it separates learning into traditional areas like reading, math, and science. Now here it supports mastery and school readiness by building skills step by step. However, of course, it can feel less playful and sometimes too rigid, making it harder to adjust to individual pacing. Then we have here the project based. The focus, it deep investigation of a topic. Strength, it encourages thinking, teamwork, deep learning. And the limitation is it is time consuming and needs strong facilitation. And routine based, it focuses on learning embedded in daily routine. Then the strength is it is functional skills, consistency, and inclusive support. Then in limitation, it needs limitation, it needs intentional planning, and progress may be slower because learning relies on repeated routines. Then in competence, then in the competency base, the focus is skill track from emerging to mastery. The strengths is clear progress tracking, supports differentiation, and lastly is it can become rigid if overused, and focusing too much on skill progression may reduce creativity. Then, to conclude our topic for today, curriculum models guide how learning and teaching happen in early childhood education. Now, here they influence instructional approaches and help teachers shape meaningful experiences because of these models, learning becomes intentional and thoughtfully structured. And curriculum structures, on the other hand, it organizes how learning is delivered. So when combined, curriculum models and structures work together as a system. They create intentional learning environments that are developmentally appropriate and inclusive, supporting the diverse needs of all of the children. So ultimately, this partnership supports overall child development, the holistic development of the child, their cognitive, their social, their emotional, and their physical growth are all addressed here, making learning meaningful and helping children develop in a holistic way. And all And that's all. Thank you. Thank you for listening. And once again, I am Johanny Sandugan. Thank you.